Hey there, this is Conversations for Men Women Need to Hear. This show is sponsored by Chew on This Media LLC and Visualize Unlimited LLC. I'm Angeline Longshore with Zelis Daniel. Hi, Zelis.
How you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm busy.
Yeah.
I'm so busy.
That's what we're talking about. We're talking about the culture of busy. We are now both talking about how we're in this busy culture. We've been in this culture where everyone is just like on a treadmill, doing their thing, being, outside of themselves, practically just getting things done and feeling like we have to get things done. And then this pandemic happened, and there was a little slowdown of being in that treadmill of life, is how I think of it. And so now we're talking about what opportunity we have and how that's shifted us to sort of look in and say, how can we shift now and maybe not be in that busy mode? We were talking about, Zealous, about that isolation feeling of when we're in that busy mode, we get really kind of compartmentalized, which is where our culture has put us. And we're pretty much just doing our own thing, not in a community type mode. So now that we're in isolation in this pandemic, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's like people wear busy as like a badge of honor, you know? It's like if you're not busy, we're all busy. And, I think the quarantine has been really good for a lot of putting things into scope and perspective. But most of the people I know are like just as busy. It's like I certainly am just as busy now, if not ever. And you have to try to like find time to make things work. Like even with these podcast shows, it's like at some point in time, I'm like, I'm so busy, I have so much going on. Should I try to take a week off? Or and it's like, well, you just have to choose what's important. You make time for everything. So though we all think that we're like, I'm busy, I'm too busy for this, I've got a lot going on. When people reach out, it's challenging to want to connect with friends and people because we have so much going on. But it's really about priorities. You just have to go and recognize like we're not what we're making a priority, and to see what kind of value and community we're missing out on because we're too busy. um, and that's just where we become this like more compartmentalized with your family unit, where it's like the things that directly involve your family, you make time for. And something going through my separation was just like, oh, I can actually be present and have a conversation with a person that I cross paths with in my workspace or in life, and actually engage and have a somewhat meaningful conversation other than just this, brief hello or comment of the weather or whatnot. So it's, I think it's really important that we start to recognize like what the busy lifestyle and the busy culture is doing, because everybody's so busy, but then how much time do you spend staring at a screen? It's like you're too busy to have a conversation with this person, but you'll spend 5 or 10 minutes on Instagram 10 times a day. That's reality.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. What I really liked about what you said was that what are we losing out on? That's the question to
Yeah.
ask ourselves. What are we losing out on when we're so busy task oriented? I mean, that's the difference, is that we're not connecting. And I think as a result of our individual culture of success and productivity, we are, what I think is maybe we've lost that connection. And now that we're in
We're
this
losing,
isolated place, we're really feeling like connection is super important.
yeah, we're losing the community, and I think that has become really obvious that when you don't have community, you place too much on your partner and your partnership, and that just becomes stressed out. It's like I'm so busy because I have so many things I need to do to take care of my family and to be present with my kids and to be able to like, pay my bills and keep my work coming in. And so you're just not having that community, and then you're in turn you're building, you're spending that time. I've recognized I spend that time on social media, where you are building a social media community, which has value. I don't want to say that it doesn't, but it is just really unfortunate that we're losing that connection with the people that are really present in our life, and establishing that and maintaining the friendships that we have that are ultimately going to give us more time. You know, when you have community, especially in a family, and when you have a community of families, you can delegate a lot of responsibilities, and you can, you know, help. It's just as easy to, sometimes it's easier to watch 3 or 4 kids than it is to watch 1 or 2, because they can play with each other, and you can work on, you know, a housing project, or you can just have some real conversation time with your friends. And you know, when we're just being really busy and we don't have that community vibe, you're missing out on that, and you feel like you don't have the time for that. But it's a mindset. We have the time, not always, but we just have to go and realize that you're investing time into friendship and community, and that it's going to have a return, you know, and you have to choose who you spend your time with. You know, some people are going to consume your energy, and some people are going to give. And that's the ebb and flow of life. You know, I think that at this point in my life, I'm really interested in building more valuable relationships with people that show character, that they will show up, that people are going to check in with you, um, and that people will have a conversation with you, even if it's something you have different perspectives on, and that you can work through it without work through a disagreement or different perspectives and learn something from it. You know, it's like both people can walk away from like a conversation about the effectiveness of a um, what kind of mask you're wearing, you know, whatever the deal is.
Yeah, I was thinking about what we've lost and, excuse me, where our culture has put us, because I don't think we've actually consciously chosen where we are and how we've been operating. What I see when I think about it is that we've been told to be these independent people. We've been told to be super women, and that we've got to take care of our families ourselves. And the model of the tribe is so old and long ago that we're so out of touch with it is to even lean into, like really lean into another family or other families. And when we connect on social media, it it feels good, but you can't really lean in, as opposed to
No.
like if you have a friend that you text with even and say, I'm really feeling sad right now, like I feel isolated, I'm feeling grief. There's a difference in using technology in a way where we actually do have these people that we can form a tribe with and lean into. And so it's, I think that we can move forward, not just go back to tribal times, but move forward in taking this technology that we have, even when we're isolated, and find those people, like you said, that will show up. And they show up in a way
Mm-hmm.
that has intention of really showing up. So I feel like that's the difference. And not everyone is open to that, because we have been in this culture of really just taking care of ourselves. And we've been sort of told that we're supposed to hide or feel shameful if we're not making it all happen ourselves. So
Mm-hmm.
now we're in a time where I think people are open to shifting. And I've heard a lot of people kind of, even there's this challenge. I don't know if you've seen this challenge amongst women. It's called hashtag challenge accepted. And it's about women posting a black and white photo of themselves and saying, I support other women. I'm in favor of like really supporting other women. And it's, to me, that's saying like we have to come up with a challenge in order to express that this has not been, not that that's a bad thing, that's a wonderful thing, but it's like that's acknowledging that we haven't had that support. And now people are sort of ready, and they're like, okay, I'm ready to really look for other women who are saying, I support you, I see you. So that's really cool, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I love that, even though we're in this pandemic time, we have this opportunity that we can now go, okay, what do we want to create?
Yeah, I mean, I think that social media is it's a very powerful and useful tool because it allows you to reach way out of your general social scene or just the people you cross paths with in your work environment. And, it allows you to really find people that you can relate, that you can um, relate to and your struggles and the things that you want, and I see a lot of cool stuff with like the buy nothing pages that are kind of like community based for like, just within a 10 square mile radius of where you're at. It's like people that are offering up things for free or people that need something and they don't necessarily have it. And it's like, hey, I'm having a birthday party for my kid, and if anybody's got some old um, toys for the yard, we could use a swing set or something like that. Um, and I see, people when they are being vulnerable and saying, hey, I'm dealing with this, I'm kind of struggling, does anybody have any ideas, or is anybody else struggling with these issues? It's a really great way to be heard to a larger audience than you would maybe like reach out to on an individual level. And so, I think we should use social media. A big part of it, I think, really comes down to people's mindset of wanting to build that community and recognizing that you have to invest that time and energy if you want that. You'll see other groups of individuals that, have this club or, this little support group. And then you're like, I want that support group. And you have to just invest that time and energy, and it might not be super interesting, and you got to find the people you're going to click with. It's just like any of these sports team analogies that we've had. You want to go and find people that are going to be um, in a similar environment or pay scale, or you don't want to be in competition with your teammates. You want to be able to like have a community essence and want to have people that all want to work together, but you just got to put the time in.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're busy, we don't want to put that time in, but it seems like with that we're becoming more isolated, and then you're busy all day long, and then in the evening you have a downtime that's a time of depression, or you're not depressed when you're hammering out work all day long and you've got all of these things that you're doing on and you're accomplishing goals, but then you get home and it's like, oh, I didn't make any plans to do anything with somebody tonight, and now I'm eating dinner by myself. Like that's where people's energy starts to go down. Um, and it's where having that community and making some more plans and being spontaneous is gonna uh, be what it takes to lift your spirits. And it's really it's the community, especially when you have couples and kids. You become your little bubble, and we have to create community that doesn't have competition with each other, that we're going to feel like we're going to support each other, and be able to show up or reach out. And it's like, hey, I haven't heard from you for a while, or things are either really good or you're dealing with some struggles, so how's it going?
Mm-hmm. I think also, in addition to that, in that reaching out, we have to be willing to be vulnerable, because when we're in that culture of doing it for ourselves, it's, I think culture has put us in this place where we think about that we're supposed to, um, I don't want to say not trust, but that there's this lack of trust that somebody will be there for us. It's almost like a fear, like if I put myself out there, will somebody actually be there for me? And so it's opening up that vulnerability of the fear of not being receptive, or somebody not being receptive to you, of putting that out there too. And it seems that women are now turning a corner, that they're not like, I'm just charging ahead and going to do this by myself and I'm going to look like the superwoman, which was such a past word, but because we're beyond that, and not be so badass anymore. I mean, because like that term has been so popular for a while, and it's like, we already know every single woman has their talents, and there's a lot of smart women, capable, we can do everything. But now we're turning the corner of, well, there's this vulnerability that we have to break down from that strong woman that we are. And say, I want to connect on a level that really I need to trust you. I need to have that really open dialogue. And it's kind of scary, I mean, because we've been in this culture for so long. So for women, I think it's a little scary to say, I don't know if you're going to be there for me, but if you're willing to, I'm willing to create a little tribe community. And that's what's happening with having to put children in school or not in school these days. People are saying, I'm feeling like I don't want to have my kids in school. So what other mamas are willing to, or dads willing to tribe up and like have these little cohort groups? And we're being forced to trust each other with our children and their health. And that's a reason that we're being forced. If this wasn't happening, we would have to do it on ourselves to say, okay, I just need some support. And that's really a vulnerable place to be, to say, I really need just support because I can't do it all. I've been trying. It's really hard. I'm really tired. I know you're tired. And some moms are doing that pre-pandemic. They're saying, I have, like, not me, but I've heard some moms saying, I have two crazy boys that are so intense, and I know you have boys too, and so can we just help each other out? Maybe they can play together on the block or whatever it is. But it takes vulnerability to do that. So that's what I'm seeing is like making that choice, you said, right? To invest time, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, I think there's probably an aspect of our competitive society that we're in too, and our like desire to do the best with everything. And and so like I know just kind of with my work and my reality that there's things that other people could do to help me with, but I'm really prone to just want to do it myself because I want it done to this level of stature. And I whether it's a matter of me not having the patience or just being like, knowing nobody else is going to do it just the way I want it done. And we want to have it done to that level. And to be able to go, somebody else can do a job and it might not be the same exact way, or it might not be quite as nice, but that's okay. I think that we have this competitive nature and this like striving to do our best, which is totally valuable and has its place in certain aspects of our life, but it's kind of affecting a lot of aspects of our life. And it's what's getting us to that point of burnout. And it's like when you burn out, and you don't burn out where everybody can see you on stage. You burn out by picking up your phone and just losing 20 minutes scrolling through your social media. I think that's where um, social media is just such a blessing and a curse. It has so much good. And I was kind of thinking about this, I think, with one of our last podcasts, that um, I'm interested in your feedback and others, but to try to keep your social media to a level where you're going to contribute an almost equal amount of time as you voyeurize. So it's like, I think it's real easy to just look at other people's stuff, and you're just loading up with all of this irrelevant information. And so to either be making posts or commenting and interacting with other people's posts is going to make it more engaging and more of a tool than that, like, and to just ask yourself, it's like, okay, if you've spent 20 or 30 minutes on social media and you haven't had some real engagement, you probably need to get off, or you need to do something to create some engagement of your own, just as a mental, like, how do you create balance with this thing? Because yes, it is a tool, and it's also, um, can be a real drain and an escapism. I think that's probably what it ends up being for a lot of people. A lot more is, some people use it just as a tool and they really know how to leverage it and use it well, and then other people are using it just as escapism. And we need to, like, kind of create balance to have a little more harmony in our overall society.
And in there, I think there's that community piece. So when there's that engagement, then you're actually contributing. And part of what you're saying is that you need to invest time. And it's true on social media. If you invest time into the group that you're in or whatever it may be, the people that respond or post that you see, then you're giving, and coming from that place of giving without expectation of receiving anything back is felt. And that's what builds community. So when we are just voyeurs and just scrolling, it's selfish, self-serving in a sense, and also you're not getting the most out of it. So it's keeping that isolation barrier between you and those people. And there's also this feeling of not getting and receiving in that you're actually putting up a wall, when you do just scroll, because there's a lot of what I believe mental thoughts that are happening of comparing, contrasting, those self-criticism things that just come up if we're not actually connecting. If when we connect, we're in a different part of our brain, that's a giving mode. So I feel like, what if we're going to use it, we might as well use it as if it were real life, which it is actually now real life, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Ah, so many things to do in our day to day. And, being able to just sit down and do this podcast has been a really good way to kind of just like ground out and center and have some deeper conversations. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I'm and it's like that, we have our, we can come up with excuses to get out of anything. We are such excuse people, but to just surrender and be like, no, let's kind of commit to this and make it a regular thing and make that time for it. And we can always adjust our schedule to get everything that we need to get done in the day. At least we can certainly try.
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah, this podcast is a form of, I think of it as building community, of building something not just between us, but giving a little vulnerability of ourselves to bring up these topics that may resonate with people. And we really want to engage with people so that we're contributing to your life, whomever is watching. And so it's hopefully um, resonating in relation to what's happening in your life. And if it's not, we're open to talking about whatever it is that you see in a different way. So, it's investing time. We're investing this time for all of us, for our community.
well, let's look at how that plays out into our relationships too, where it's like, we've become more distant to our partners, and we're not necessarily like making time to really engage and interact with our lovers and our co-parents. And it's making it a priority, and I feel like we create all these little tasks and things that we need to do. So it's like, oh, I'm trying to do this for you and you're just trying to do that for me. And to recognize, like, it's really important that we make time to just be present with our partners. And it doesn't have to be task oriented. And it doesn't need to be like tune out oriented. I mean, how many people are spending their evenings once the kids go to bed, or even not, where it's like you're watching TV and both on your phone. I think that's a lot of America. It's like TV's on, phones in the hand, and people are not engaging with their lover, their life partner. It's like to recognize, like, hey, let's come up with some other activities and some other ways to just be more present with each other. And it's tricky too, because I think that you don't want to have these hard conversations, or you don't want to have disagreements. So it's easier for you to just sit in the room with your partner, and you don't know what you want to watch. You pick this show, I'm going to look at my phone. There's this other show I want to watch, but and you're avoiding the conflict, but it's like when you have that conflict, and you work through it, that's where you're going to get resolution, and that's where you're going to build the trust. That's when you're going to improve your relationship. And if we're not talking about it, then it's going to continue to happen. And
I think that
I
I
mean,
had a
how
vision
many,
when you were talking about that is if we invest in our relationships, and not only when there's time for confrontation, but when on a daily basis of, I just want to connect with you, and not say that. That's kind of weird, but to actually think, how am I going to connect our family? How am I going to spend time so that we have this routine of rapport, where we actually enjoy each other. And so it's investing, it's like making a decision and saying, how can we? And then taking that to your family as something exciting and saying, hey, this is what I just thought of this idea. We're going to do this now because it'd be really fun to actually, whatever it is, and for us, it's having dinner together. It's like, not going off and doing your own projects, but to say, we're going to just have dinner together, maybe even watch something together. If you don't feel like talking, maybe that's too much at the end of the day, but we're consistently together. And if we're consistently together, that builds a routine. So when you have something hard to talk about, you've already built in all this goodness of connection and bonding. So it's not like out of the blue, like you're all in different places doing your own thing on iPads or phones, and then, oh, I need to connect, and that's like the person feels put upon because you've not had connection for however long. But if you have that bond, it's just easier. It just is more seamless.
Yeah, I feel like there's just a need for people to have awareness that we need to create space for natural communication to just happen, where you don't have the distraction of entertainment, and you're not trying to be like, let's make this time. This is what we're supposed to be doing now. And I think that's having a something you can do as a form of exercise is, or like I suggest the idea of like a fire pit, where it's just like something that you're going to just kind of like do this thing, and it's going to not really be about the thing. It's about not having this other distraction that's going to allow this to happen naturally, because that's it's got to happen naturally, and I think that that is what does happen in the beginning of relationships. You just naturally have these conversations and you enjoy each other's company so much, and then life gets busy, and it's that busyness that makes it more and more difficult, and then you get a few of these underlying issues. You don't want to have confrontation, and so you have that avoidance, and it's just like a practice with going to the gym or surfing or any of these things. It's like you get in a good little kick and you do it regularly, and you're like, I'm doing this every day, like the whether it's your cardio machine or whatever it is, like, got to do this every day. I feel great every time I do it. And then you get busy or you get sick and you get out of that routine, and then it's harder and harder to get back into it. And I think it's the same thing with communicating with your partner. And it seems like that's just really been something that we need to keep in mind. We need to talk about, so that people think about it, because these aren't the things that people are thinking about when they're looking on the internet. It's
Hmm. I think about where I'm spending my time. So I think that's one way maybe to look at it. If someone's wondering, well, how do I start? How do I decide what to do? And just for everyone, it's different. So there's no formula. But looking at where you're spending your time, I think really helps. And then you can say, is that activity that I'm doing really crucial? And maybe it is, or maybe it's not. And would I rather build my relationship with my family during that time? And maybe it's every other time, or, whatever it is for that person, because that activity that they're doing is important. But really just asking yourself and taking the time to ask yourself and then adjust. So that's just a small way that I do that. Because sometimes people think, okay, well, I like that idea, but how do I get there? So that's one way to get
mm-hmm.
there.
Yeah, it's something that I have been doing for since I've had my kids with me is, and even before, I think I was trying to make an effort, but it's been a really clear choice, is just put my phone on silent when I have my kids,
Mm.
and just don't be looking at it. It's like it's so easy to want to look at it and to want to check things out, or but it's really refreshing when you are like, oh, I want to get a picture of my kids doing this, and you're like, oh, there's a bunch of messages there. I'm not really paying attention to it. So um, I know that's not feasible for everybody, but I think that while we're talking about the relationship with our parent or with our partners and our lovers, to go and recognize how important that is with our kids too, just to say, because your kids are going to learn everything from you, and it's like we're already seeing this culture where kids are getting phones and tablets younger and younger, and it's no surprise because they see their mom and dad on their phone all the time. It's like, well, I want a phone too. You're always on it. I know there's cool things to look at, and so we're just setting ourselves up to have that disconnect with your kids as well, where it's like, that if you're likewise going to be doing some sort of exercise or activity with your kids, then your kids are going to be more likely to be open and share with you and to be more engaging, and they're just going to be more likely to play with their friends. And I'm really scared at the way our society is moving, especially with Corona. Now we have to do all this online learning for our kids, and screen times are just pushing 8, 9, 10 hours for your kids. It's like by the time they play some games and watch some TV and do some school learning, it's like we're getting really disconnected, and it's already just hard enough as a kid. I remember when I was a kid, it was like getting a Nintendo. You could just spend hours and hours playing these games, and we're turning the corner on the Oculus. It's like you're not even going to see your kids' eyes. They're just going to be strapped in microphones, goggles and gloves, and you just
Yeah, I wonder, how do you see integrating how we are now into building community? I mean, where we are right now. Do you have any methods that you have thought of?
Well, I definitely see that, through these large Zoom group shares and group exercise, there's some real movement for that. I know that, this whole Peloton movement has just been really wonderful for a lot of people that are building, like, okay, I don't get to see my coworkers, but I get to ride bikes with them. You know what I mean? And it's just like doing
What's the
these
Peloton?
regular,
I don't know about that.
um, it's an exercise bike
Oh.
that has a big touch screen, and there's like thousands of classes that happen all the time.
Hmm.
But it's really an easy way for you to just be like, oh, like me and you could go and ride a simulation of riding to the top of Haleakala,
Hmm.
and you both could get that journey. Or it's like, I'm going to do this, you know, Saturday, I'm going to go on this long ride, and your friends can be like, oh, hey, I'm going to do my hour bike ride. I'll ride with you, and you can, I don't know if you can actually just talk to them. I think that it makes no reason why you couldn't have it networked so that you can talk to them and see them and stuff. But it's just, as far as like being able to have some community and some networking and to be able to do that, I think there's a lot of that is happening, certainly with, and I think that, group yoga, there's something about going to a yoga
Yeah.
class that's, it's like you're not going to give up. I think a yoga class, yoga was very intimidating for me, and then I kind of got into a good little routine for a little while, and it's like, halfway through or 45 minutes into a yoga class, you're like looking at the door, like, can I just sneak out? Like, I can't hang in this pose much longer. And then you're done, and that's just kind of the way that it is. And um, I think it's really good to go and have that outside class interaction, but because of our current state, it's not necessarily feasible for everybody. So
Yeah. Well, now there's
that's something.
people doing yoga classes by donation. I just interviewed someone for my other show about it, where she actually has them open up the mics at the very end so that they can talk to each other because we're so isolated.
Yeah.
And the people that go to her class are like, oh, I can actually interact with somebody, and they're all around the world, which is really cool. So there are those things that we have to look for, and decide how we want to connect and invest our time. And maybe even for our children, I think there's in Maui, there's also another one for kids. It's a cooking Zoom for kids. And they're all up on the screen at the same time. So they feel like they're sort of in a little class together. And I mean, we're in a different world now, where we really can't be in the same place anymore. So, like you're saying, it's true. Now I realize there are a lot of those out there. We just have to look for them And then one day we'll be able to be in person again. I mean, I think we're all looking
Yeah.
forward to that. But
Well, there's also that room where you can use the internet to find your people in your group, and then you also get to like use that whole anticipation of like, I've been writing with these people, for months now, and I've got some new friends here and a couple old friends, and then we're all going to go on this bike ride together, like an actual real bike ride, and you have that thing to look forward to. Like, we're training hard to do this ride, and then you get so much of that anticipation happiness that we love. um, and so that's something to look forward to. And something that I think is really powerful to keep in mind is that you should be clear with your intentions. When you put something out on the internet, it's like, be specific, be clear with your intentions, and you might just be super amazed at what you find. It's like, um, and I think it was related to your Match.com story about being really specific. Like, I need a man, I want kids, and doing that myself, and just being like, this is what I really want. And it's like, when you're specific and you put it out there, um, you'll be amazed at how quick things can come in, and you got to filter out and save a lot of time. When you're specific with your intentions on the internet, it allows you to really get what you want without having to waste a lot of time. And um, it's random, just like everything. There's hit and miss,
well, when you
but
find your tribe of
hopefully.
people, when you're sorry, I was talking over you, but when you find your tribe of people, and then you state your intention clearly, then you'll see how they respond. And it is that stepping up and being vulnerable in the right place at the right time, and then be consistent
Mhm.
in stepping up. Because in I have a book club, and it's pretty interactive, and it's like we have to consistently connect with each other. And the same with the people that I've chosen to be in my tribe. It's like, you show up, and amazingly that person or those people show up for you too. So it's really putting in that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were going to say something. I don't know if I just took you off track.
I Yeah, no, I missed it off. I keep thinking I had started was part of a glass blowing club, and since this coronavirus hit, we haven't been able to do any meetings, and my brain is thinking about how I need to just get a little collab project going on, so you can go and start a project in glass, and it can carry over for a number of different creative outlets. And then you have some way to like pass it off. Like, I'm thinking, next time I go to my supply store, I'm gonna make a little post in my internet group, and take some artwork up there that's started, and then be like, somebody else wants to bring something, just get this exchange going, where you take a mixed mystery box of started art project, and then you have to leave something. And so somebody gets to start it, and then you can get these different random things that would come together, and it's just a way to create community, even though we're in our little bubbles, and we're trying to do this all safely. But you need to have some interaction with other people, because yeah, the next wave is coming. And
It is,
yeah.
unfortunately. There are a lot of groups that are in existence. I mean, you can start your own if you feel like there's something that you really are passionate about and you have a vision, like you with your glass blowing. And then there are some people who are not, they don't feel like they're leader type people who are ready to start something. So there are a lot of groups that are local or around your interests. And it is just doing that consistent giving, where you can just heart somebody, and you can say, like, relate to them on a personal level, like, I feel you, or this is similar to how I'm experiencing this right now, in that sort of vulnerable way. And I'm seeing that in some of the mommies groups that I'm in, that are Maui moms. And I see a real camaraderie with the consistent voices in there. And
Mm-hmm.
I actually feel like safe with some of them. I'm like, wow, they're consistently answering, and they're consistently holding space in a way that feels really kind, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And So as I'm thinking about how we're going to be moving forward into however long we're going to be in this pandemic, the way that we interact in these communities is really crucial in building those bonds and building that peace that is community, because we can't meet in person. And so we have to look for those resources. And now that we're not so busy, I mean, I'm busy and you're busy, maybe some of you are busy, but to take that time to not be so busy and to go, I'm going to invest. Like really, it's kind of like investing, as we had talked about before, investing time, investing something in what you want to build.
That sounds really nice, but I'm just too busy. I don't have time for that. I think that's the thing that I want people to take away from this episode, is that it's like we make the choice of whether or not we're going to be too busy to do these things. And it's like you just have to make the choice to, like, yes, this isn't a priority. Yes, we're busy. And if you don't put the importance and the priority on some community, that you're missing out on so much of the joy in life, and the community bond that's going to help you through the struggles mentally, physically, socially. So yeah.
I totally agree. It's the mentality of independence versus interdependence. Which do we want to choose? Do we want community? Do we want to have people have our back, or are we going to just try to do it all ourselves? I think that's sort of the bottom line.
Yeah. And we're such a call and response culture, as I think that's one of the things where, people talking about how they're busy, you have to just realize you have to change the way you speak and say, I can try to make some time for that, or I can make time for that. I will make time for that. I, you know, because yeah, when everybody says, I'll make some time for you, I can make a little bit of time. You want to talk about what you can do. And yeah, we're just in a very busy culture, and it's um, what's the point of being so busy in your life all the time that you're missing these sweet little moments and this human interaction? So
Mm-hmm. Yep, I love it. Well, is there anything beyond that? I feel like we've covered quite a bit of this topic, and
yeah,
we can.
if we keep talking, we're going to spawn off onto another
I
topic, and
know
it'll be
that's
another 45
that's
minutes.
what I'm thinking. So this is great. I feel like we've got a lot of thoughts on where busy has brought us, and bringing that connection and culture to shift to a more connected culture of community, investing time into where we want to build that. um, I think those are the main takeaways of what we've talked about. Yeah.
Yeah,
All right. So,
good stuff.
yeah, thanks for being here, you guys, discovering life with us, discovering where we're going in our relationships and our connections with people and our families. This is conversations for men, women would need to hear, probably. Yeah.
We all need
We
to
all
hear
need
it.
to
We
hear
all need to
it.
hear it.
All right. We'll see you guys next week. Take care.
Alrighty, bye bye. Oh, in case you didn't know, this is sponsored by Visualize Unlimited LLC and
Chew on
Chew
This
on This
Media.
Media.
That's right. All right. Thanks, guys.